Hello ghost hunters, Tommy Terror here, Edinburgh Ghost Tour Guide, teller of dark, spooky tales and horrible history. We all love watching these TV shows where the police use forensic science to catch the killer, but how did they do this in the dim and distant past without that kind of scientific information? Well, sometimes they relied on weird superstitions such as the ordeal by touch. And today's story is one of murder, superstition and gruesome execution at the World's End Close in Edinburgh. So this is me standing inside the World's End Close. Let's have a look outside on the street. And it's called the World's End because for many years Edinburgh was a walled city. There was great big walls round the city and there used to be a big gate to get in and out. This was called the Netherbow Port, and this gate used to stand just here on the street just there. So to get into the city you had to pay a toll, and to leave the city you had to pay another toll. So a lot of people couldn't afford this money and they lived their entire lives within the city walls and they never saw beyond this point. For those people this was the end of the world, and hence the end of the world close. See that up there? So in the year 1687, a man called Sir James Stansfield lived in a house here. Now, Sir James Stansfield was an ex-soldier. He was a wealthy businessman. He had a woolen mill and he was very well respected, but he had a son called Philip who was a menace. Now, Philip used to spend his father's money and get into debt and be locked up in jail, and he was often heard cursing and berating his father. So in the end, Sir James got fed up with this and he cut Philip out of the will. Sometime after this, Sir James' body was found lying face down in a pool of water near this area, and there was some suspicion that maybe Philip was involved in his father's death. But Philip insisted that his dad had lost his mind and had drowned himself. But an hour after the body was found, Philip was found removing valuables from his father's house, and he was even wearing the silver buckles that his father had been wearing on his boots when he died. So the authorities thought, well, maybe there's something going on here. Perhaps we should have a look at this body and examine it for signs of foul play. So it was decided the body would be examined and an autopsy would be carried out. But Philip heard about this and he didn't want that to happen. So he arranged for his father's body to be buried quickly that very night without anyone examining it. Now this just further fueled speculation and rumour that something was going on here, so the authorities decided the body would be exhumed and Philip would be there to witness it. So a large crowd gathered to watch the body being taken out of the ground, and Philip was asked to help carry his father's body. But as soon as he laid his hand on the corpse, blood spurted from the neck. Philip fell to his knees, cried to God for mercy and fainted, and the onlookers were horrified, because at this time in history it was believed that a murdered corpse would bleed if it was touched by the murderer. So this was the murder victim speaking from beyond the grave to identify the killer. It was known as the ordeal by touch. So the authorities have specifically arranged for Philip to have to touch the body to put him through this ordeal by touch without him knowing it. And this was even something that was written about by King James VI and I in his book Demonology, all about witchcraft. So the fact that the corpse had bled was enough evidence to convict Philip of his father's murder. It was decided he had strangled his father and dumped the body in a pool as revenge for being cut out of the will. So he was sentenced to death. They cut out his tongue, they chopped off his hand, and he was supposed to be hanged, but there was something wrong with the noose. So the executioner had to manually strangle Philip on the gallows. His head was then chopped off and his body was dumped in a ditch. And this was the last time in Scottish history the ordeal by touch was admitted as evidence in a murder trial. So there you go. The World's End Close in Edinburgh and weird superstitions of times gone by. Oh, there's a creepy breeze.